Welcome everybody. My name is Fabio Teresino, and along with Rich Gamboa from Omron, we'll be hosting the webinar today. I would like first of all to thank everybody for taking the time for this webinar, and the presentation should take something between 30 to 45 minutes. So if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to write them at the Q&A box from the webinar interface or even on the chat box. And after the presentation, the engineer Rich Gamboa and myself will be answering any questions that you write there. I'll just make a brief introduction about InduSoft, the advantages of the InduSoft solution for the detention systems, building automation, and home automation. Talk briefly about some real-world solutions where InduSoft Web Studio was deployed for detention, home, and building automation. Many of them with the Omron solution as well, with the Omron hardware. And then I'll pass control to Richard Gamboa from Omron. Richard is an expert from Omron. He works on the business development group for security in detention. He knows as much as detention systems and security as anyone I know. Everything I know about detention systems and security I learned from Rich. And I'm honored, and it's a pleasure to have him today to co-host the webinar with us and talk about his experience in the market and about concepts and solutions and techniques used in the detention market that could be applied as well for building automation and home automation solutions. With having said that, then I'd like to start with a very brief overview about InduSoft. I believe most of you know the company, but for new leads, new customers, just a quick 1-minute overview. We are in business since 1997. We are the first company to release an HMI software for Windows CE, but more than that, we introduced the concept to have one development environment where you can design your screens, where you can design your project, and then you can deploy your project on any Windows platform, from Windows Mobile, on the PDAs, the mobile devices, all the way up to the servers running Windows 2008 Server R2, 32 or 64 bits, desktop stations running Windows 7, and so on and so forth. Also, the product was designed with an architecture where we try to create a layer of abstraction between the main runtime, where we collect data from the PLCs, controllers, remote IOs, barcode readers, and the presentation, the visualization portion, where we provide the interface with the user, where we show online data, history data, and so on and so forth. In this architecture allowed us to create the product from the ground up with the idea that the graphical interface, the online data, the history data would be available not only on the computer where InduSoft is running, where the main runtime is running, but also from remote computers, remote devices where the user could access the data. And recently we have expanded this concept and this solution for non-Microsoft devices, and next month we will release InduSoft Web Studio 7.1, which will allow you to visualize online data and history data even on non-Microsoft devices using a native browser that supports HTML5. Could be iPads, Android devices, tablets, or cell phones. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that during the presentation. We also invested heavily on database connectivity. We have a patent for this solution. The bottom line here is that using the InduSoft Web Studio, you can very easily save and retrieve data from any SQL relational database. And we received several certifications over the past years. We are members of the OpenSea Foundation. We are Microsoft Gold Certified Partner for more than 7 years now. and we have access to the Microsoft products even before they release them to the product. So for instance, we have been able to test InduSoft Web Studio on the beta version of Windows 8. So when Windows 8 is finally released to the market, InduSoft Web Studio will be fully compatible with it. And we received several awards, including the Control Engineering Magazine Award for Best HMI of the Year, this year again, in 2012, for the third time. And I'd like to thank all the customers, all the users that voted on InduSoft, because pretty much InduSoft received the award based on the votes from the readership of the magazine for the customers, application engineers who voted on InduSoft as the best HMI SCADA software of the year. So talking specifically about detention, building, and home automation, there are many features in the product that made the Omron InduSoft solution and InduSoft Web Studio extremely successful in the detention market. Richard has more accurate numbers there, but as far as I understand, Omron has more than 80% of the hardware PLC controller market share in detention in North America. And InduSoft has been working with Omron over the past years in the detention market, and we have converted, I would say, close to, if not more than 50% of the system integrators in this market. So in just a few years, we have seen a tremendous increase in market share for InduSoft in this market, and Omron also keeps their very strong position as the controller provider in this market. But we see many features in the solution that could be applied not only for detention, but for building automation, for home automation. Things like data acquisition. The fact that InduSoft Web Studio provides more than 240 native communication drivers for different protocols, anything from Modbus to BACnet to the Omron PLCs to proprietary protocols, different protocols, RFID readers, barcode readers. All those drivers are built in the product, so it's very easy to customize InduSoft to retrieve data from devices or controllers that you have in your detention facility, in your building, or in your home as well. Even small PLCs, micro PLCs that are typically used for small projects like home automation, where you do not have a lot of points. In many systems, all those drivers, they are independent from the physical layer. So drivers like, for instance, Modbus, or drivers to communicate with the Omron PLCs. In some projects, we communicate with the controllers using a regular Ethernet network, wired network. But in many systems, we have some nodes connected to the network using wireless connectivity. Especially in home automation and building automation, it's especially important and common. And in some cases, we use standard physical layers like Wi-Fi to connect PDA, cell phones, and computers to the network. And in other cases, we use emerging technologies like Z-Wave or Zigbee to exchange data between the InduSoft Web Studio and the sensors. Regardless of the physical layer you use, InduSoft has a wealth library of drivers that support many different protocols, in addition to the OPC client interface built in the product for OPC DA, UA, and .NET, and APIs like the driver toolkit, which allows the system integrator or the end user to create their own drivers for their own protocols. So in a particular project, for instance in detention, we have system integrators that develop their own drivers to exchange data with CCTV controllers or PA annunciators. And in building automation and home automation, we see the same thing. There are some devices that are proprietary, that support particular proprietary protocols. And using those APIs, the system integrator can design new drivers for InduSoft Web Studio to communicate with those unique proprietary protocols. We also have interface for biometric readers like fingerprint readers, all kind of biometric readers, and using standard technologies like ActiveX controls, .NET controls, or even ASCII protocols or binary protocols. We are able to retrieve the data from those systems and provide, for instance, access control to different locations in the buildings, and log the information about who was at each room of the building, of the detention facility, based on the biometric readers. Graphical visualization. So in InduSoft, the ability to design the application once and deploy this application on any Microsoft device with any resolution is a major advantage. The screens, the graphical interface rescale to the resolution that you are using on the device, and you can also convert the application to different resolutions. And when you go to the thin clients, to the stations where you use a web browser or just a thin client application to visualize the application, the flexibility is even higher. We have solutions to visualize applications even from tablets like iPads or Android devices, PDAs or cell phones running pretty much any device that supports a remote desktop connection. And now in version 7.1, we have a native solution to display alarm online, alarm history, trained online, trained history, in dashboards with gauges that display online information about the process. Could be anything like temperature for the rooms. You can change the set points, and you can do everything from any browser like Firefox, Chrome, Safari, even from tablets like Androids or iOS tablets, as well as Microsoft tablets as well, which exist in the market. And with Windows 8, we are forecasting an increase of use of Microsoft-based tablets and mobile devices. But the solution, the idea is to have a thin client solution that's completely cross-platform. Linked symbols is a very powerful feature in the InduSoft Web Studio, is the ability for you to create objects, graphical objects, encapsulate in those objects all the features you need and reuse them in many different interfaces. So for instance, for detention automation, it's very common to have icons on the screens to illustrate the doors. Most of the detention systems, the core portion of the application is door control. In some cases, we have hundreds and hundreds of doors in a detention facility. So instead of recreating those icons for each single door, using the InduSoft Web Studio, system integrators create a linked symbol, a master symbol, and just reapply this symbol throughout the screens. And if they have to make any changes in the model of a screen, they just change the master symbol, and they do not have to modify each one of the instances of those doors, because they are automatically linked and updated when you change the master symbol. Same thing applies for building automation and especially home automation, where you typically have typical symbols, linked symbols for lights, for escalators, for HVAC, and you do not have to replicate those symbols for each room, for each graphical screen for the home automation system. We also have in detention many systems where we display live images from cameras on the screen, or even play videos from recorded videos, from recorded live images from the cameras. And the same capability is also required in building and home automation. So InduSoft Web Studio is a generic ActiveX control and .NET control. So using those technologies, you can display live images from cameras and play videos on the screens. Finally, background tasks. Alarm management system is a very important interface in the InduSoft Web Studio that is available for any project. It's heavily used in detention systems, but in building and home automation, you can create alarms. For instance, if you have sensors for presence in specific rooms. So when you leave the house and you lock the house, you can the system can generate alarm if someone breaks in, or if the temperature goes beyond limits, you can also set alarms. If you have smart meters and you link the InduSoft Web Studio to smart meters, you can even alarm leaking if we detect that energy or water is being consumed around the clock with no stop. So the same way we generate alarms for detention systems, we can do the same for building and home automation, with remote notification as well, especially in home automation or building automation. It's very convenient to receive text messages in your cell phone or even emails with alarm messages as soon as the alarms become active. And then you can, from your cell phone or from your tablet or from your PC, connect to the system and acknowledge the alarms. Event logger is pretty much the ability to create a history of actions taken by the user. Could be, for instance, for building automation, the history of access control to each one of the rooms using biometric readers, for example, and the ability to save this information in any SQL relational database. So it's very easy to share this information or to create statistical reports based on those SQL relational databases. We have also a built-in report generator. We can generate, for instance, daily reports or monthly reports about energy consumption and other variables. And the security system is a core component of InduSoft Web Studio. You have a lot of flexibility to create users, create groups, and assign access rights or restrictions for each screen, for each object on the screen. And this is obviously applicable not only for detention projects, but for building and home automation projects as well. So this is the basic overview. I'll just have a few additional slides here to emphasize some of the points we discussed. InduSoft Web Studio is an easy to use HMI, very important as well for emerging markets where you need a tool to deploy applications fast, where you have all the building blocks available to you. It runs on any Microsoft operating system, the runtime, and the thin clients are evolving to be completely cross-platform. In version 7.1, we have already done a huge step, providing alarm online, alarm history, trend online, trend history, and online data on dashboards for any browser with support for HTML5. And we have kept the commitment to keep 100% of compatibility in applications created in previous versions. So if you have a OEM kind of application for home automation or building automation, and you deploy something today, in the future you have the ability to upgrade the system to a newer version of the software, but you do not have to redesign the whole application. Newer versions of the software always support previous versions of applications created with InduSoft Web Studio. Here is about the database connectivity, the fact that we can save data to any SQL relational database. So typically in detention systems we have a lot of data. We save data to Microsoft SQL Server or Oracle, MySQL, Sybase. When you go to a building automation, sometimes SQL Express or Oracle Express, which is free of charge, suffices for the number of points that need to be saved. And we go to a home automation, a simple Excel file or MDB file would suffice in many cases for the event history, for the information that you want to keep in history. The nice thing is, regardless of the database you decide to use, the interfaces in InduSoft Web Studio are the same, and the way how you configure InduSoft to save data to the databases and retrieve data from the database is the same. So you can very easily adjust one application from SQL Server to Access to Oracle to MySQL without redesigning the whole project. And from the deployment point of view, there are many options. The ability to run the application on the cloud is becoming very popular, especially in home automation and building automation. where you could run InduSoft in a virtual server on the cloud, Amazon or Rackspace, for example, and InduSoft would be collecting data from different buildings, different homes, consolidating the data in a central database, and working as a portal for remote thin clients to connect to the server and get information about their homes, about their buildings, and all the data is saved on the cloud. So the user has the flexibility to use any device from cell phones to tablets to personal computers to access the information available on the cloud. And to visualize the data, we have the web thin clients, which provides full access to all the graphical interface available in the InduSoft Web Studio from an Internet Explorer browser. Secure Viewer, which is an app that you can use to visualize the whole graphical interface on a Windows platform or even on tablets or iPads or Android devices using a remote desktop connection. And you could have several users visualizing the same application, but according to the user logged on the system, we can filter the information available to each user. And the navigation for each user is individual. One user could be visualizing alarms, another one trains, another one the graphical screens at the same time, even using a remote desktop solution. And we have a tech note that describes in details how to make it work. And we have the SMA solution. Up to this point, the SMA provided just tabular information showing online values from tags and online alarms. And we have enhanced this solution tremendously on version 7.1 that should be released next month. So you have a much more graphical interface to monitor online data. You can customize your gauges, your bar graphs for online data. You can visualize trend data. You can visualize history of alarms, everything from any device, any browser that supports HTML5, including Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, obviously, in devices and like iPads, Androids, iPhones, and so on and so forth. So just really quick, I have a few slides here about real-world applications within the InduSoft Web Studio. So as you see, we have some real-world applications applied in detention, but using exactly the same tool, customers have been deploying successful applications to control and monitor stadiums, stadium automation. We have dozens of stadiums controlled and monitored by InduSoft worldwide. Access control and evacuation, alarm systems, everything is done with InduSoft Web Studio. Shopping malls, anything from the HVAC systems, escalators, lighting system, fire alarms, building automation per se, like hospitals, clinics, laboratories, here hospitals as well in Russia, building automation, HVAC systems. School automation as well has become a growing market for InduSoft. Not only the energy management system for the school buildings, but also evacuation, automation, alarms if there is, for instance, in this particular application, if there are chemical industries or any hazard industry nearby the school. If there is an alarm, InduSoft automatically notifies, sends remote notifications about that, and remotely people can close windows, close doors, lock doors, control the HVAC systems, recirculate the air. It's quite interesting. And it comes all the way down to home automation, where customers can design simple applications within the InduSoft Web Studio all the way up to applications in large scale to control anything from the lights to the gates to the security system, and provide a home automation interface within the InduSoft Web Studio with a generic interface that can be easily customized and make the information available to the fingerprints of the users using any devices from computers to tablets to cell phones. So with that, I'd like to pass control to the engineer Rich Gamboa, aka Rich. and he'll provide an overview about the Omron company, talk about detention solutions, where he's an expert, and mention how this knowledge and this know-how and those solutions applied on detention can be easily adopted for building automation and home automation systems. So, Rich, I assume you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make you the presenter. And feel free to share your desktop and start your presentation whenever you are ready.
Okay. Thanks again for dialing into the webinar today. We do appreciate your time. What I'll begin with is the overview of the Omron solution. It's very important to know for those of you that are not familiar with Omron or some of our history, is where we started at and where we're currently at. Omron is an industrial automation manufacturer and a global market leader with a size of about $3.5 billion. Our products include everything from micro switches through sensors, temperature process control, PLCs, and vision systems. Our customers, as you can imagine, wide range from machine builders to end users and integrators, who really all have very common values of very high quality, seamless integration, and scalable solutions. Our marketplace also includes comprehensive offering of over 50,000 different products through industrial automation, superior support services from the Omron staff, as well as InduSoft technical support, and a very well-trained distributor channel that provides support and products to all of our customer base. In regards to the security and detention industry, we've been focused on this vertical market since 1990, and during that time we have over 400 installations in the U.S. as well as Mexico and Canada. We support this industry nationally and regionally. So our integrators are our end customer, and their connection to us is direct to the manufacturers for support, as well as industry contacts and experience that they all share. One of the key items as a differential between Omron and the other PLC suppliers in that industry is, for the longest time, the detention specifications called out for PLC manufacturers to have a mean time between failure of 10 years. When Omron was introduced into this industry, we were able to supply a 15-year mean time between failure with our off-the-shelf CX1 product. We've had installations for over 18 years now with no failures. And in regards to redundant systems, we have an offering that supplies CPU redundancy as well as network redundancy and power supply redundancy, and no failures on those systems since 1990. So even though Omron was very new to the control scheme of door control, it was clear from us at the beginning that this was very high reliability and high quality that was required from these systems. As you can imagine, door control systems, even though it's automation control, is much different than controlling a motor in conjunction with photo eyes or things like that. If you take a look at the broad-based solutions from Omron, looking from right to left, we have installations that are much smaller control schemes, such as a courthouse or a local jail, where you've got the minimal control zones, limited interlocking, no reporting really required, and just some hardwired graphic buttons. So that's the way the industry looked about 10 or 15 years ago. Since that time, as you add on the size of the facilities and the amount of reporting, you introduce PC workstations versus graphic control panels, you now have detention systems with master control rooms, with multiple PC workstations running SCADA packages, different levels of redundancy, as well as network redundancy, a lot of reporting being required, and a lot of interlocking between perimeter fence systems CCTV switchers, and intercoms. And of course, Omron can provide PLCs, the HMIs, the touchscreen push buttons, as well as power supplies and relays. And of course, now we've added the InduSoft package to our offering. Additionally, within the detention industry, based on our history and understanding of the requirements, we also extend our CS1 hardware warranty to 3 years instead of 1 year from other PLC manufacturers, and we are the only PLC manufacturer to do that. A quick overview about redundancy. The reason why the CS1 has been so very successful in the detention industry, as well as why Omron involves or enjoys such a large market share of this industry, is because of our off-the-shelf redundancy offering. Again, the CS1 series and the CS1D are off-the-shelf products for Omron. They were not designed specifically for door control systems, but the platform lends itself directly to very critical control. The CS1D system allows you to have 2 CPUs that act as a primary and secondary. Those 2 processors run simultaneously, which is much different than other product offerings from our competitors. Our competitors will use 2 processors that are on their own rack with their own power supply and use some sort of heartbeat network modules in between to check if the primary processor is running. If you take a look at the basic scheme of that, what you're really doing in those scenarios is you're adding single points of failure to a very critical system. In the CS1D system, as you see here, you have 2 processors and the switch are all on a single rack. And all of the standard CS1 modules can be used on these solutions. Also, we do control a bit different in regards to redundant power supplies, where other manufacturers use a primary and secondary scheme, but they use the primary processor at full power, and then upon a failure, they would switch over to a power supply that would have to come up from literally 0 volts. The way Omron the system is designed is we have both power supplies at 50%, and so they are both up and running. The amount of switchover time is negligible. The 96-point module is another key differential for Omron versus our competitors. On these detention systems, you have a very high amount of I/O required. So as you can imagine, most competitors at that time were using 32-point modules as their highest density. With a 10-slot rack, you can have almost 1,000 points on a single CS1 rack, and you can extend up to 7 expansion racks. So you're very close to 7,000 I/O on standard Omron hardware. Also, we do not use any I/O controllers or I/O expanders in the CS1 system, and so all of the I/O are communicating at CPU bus speed, which is significantly different than all other manufacturers that would use the interlock or intercommunication cards that slows all the responses down. Another key item when we took a look at this industry was that they had things like CCTV switchers, perimeter fence, and intercoms and card access that had to communicate to the PLC. This became a very large concern for all of the owners because there was a wide variety of ways to communicate to these devices, even down to the point where they were just using digital I/O as a handshaking device. Because of our protocol macro function that is part of the CX1 software suite, we can now communicate to any third-party device that has a published serial protocol. This, again, was very key to not only bringing a new solution to the industry, but also for consideration by integrators who at that time may have been focused on the detention industry and door control systems, but were using competitors' products such as GE and Square G. The Omron InduSoft is now the largest growth area that we enjoy within the detention industry, and this is due for 3 or 4 different key reasons. But if you take a look at the product capability of InduSoft in conjunction with Omron, it really goes down to reliability and what the owners and architects see as an overall solution for their industry. The fact that they have built-in drivers for multiple PLC manufacturers, and all of these listed, there's more than what's listed, but all of these listed are all part of the detention industry. Happily for Omron, we have a much larger market share than they do. It's really tied to these different features. The redundancy within client stations is also part of detention design. Web solution is not, which makes perfect sense. You don't want people coming in from the outside to do any kind of control, but owners have allowed integrators to use part of the web solution during startup on the new construction, so that changes to the testing of the system or the actual application can be done from the real location when construction is still being completed in different areas and the facilities are not populated. This is just a couple of examples of screens that some of our integrators have used. But again, the ability to use program tags for fast development is a key to our replacement of Wonderware as the market leader in the detention industry. There is no polling required between PCs to PLCs for all of this critical data. And so that becomes very important when you take a look at this automation here. This is the way typically PLC to PC communication is being used over Ethernet. And because of the inherent design of Ethernet, it is not deterministic. And you have to broadcast messages out to each and every PLC and each and every PC for them to take a look at the data, recognize if it belongs to them or not, and send back a message for it to be passed along. So this is typically what happens in a detention system. The problem with this is that you have these PLCs are controlling doors, they're controlling intercoms, and there's CCTV switching going on, as well as keeping track of the actual door position. So if you can imagine, there's a 1,000-bed jail out there, and this information is trying to be shared simultaneously. The polling scheme, although it is in place for the older systems, can cause quite a problem. The other problem that we noticed is at this time, there were maybe 75 to 80% of detention installations were using Omron PLCs, but 75 to 80% of the integrators were using Wonderware as their solution. The problem with that is that the Wonderware product does not support all of Omron Sysmac gateway communications, and features such like data link, which are key to this solution, have always been supported through Omron proprietary networks, but they will not be supported through Wonderware or Simplicity or Involution. So with our new control scheme, Ethernet IP has replaced Ethernet as the basic network. And so the network traffic is drastically reduced because now the functionality of a data link is now supplied from the PCs to the PLCs, because only the Omron InduSoft package contains all of the Omron protocol drivers. So not only does this give us a change of how the information is being distributed to the PCs, but it also allows us to offer a feature that no other PLC and SCADA combination can offer. So as you can imagine, now you can transfer data between specific PLCs and specific PCs without having to broadcast all this information across the network that's not needed at every node. Some of the advantages system integrators have fed back to us based on the operation of the system is that the uptake time between an Omron InduSoft system and Omron PLCs is much quicker, much more reliable than using other competitors' products. The backward compatibility of the InduSoft software as well as CX1 is a key feature. This allows the PC workstations at any of these installations or any of our customers to have multiple versions of InduSoft residing on the same PC. That is not the case with our competitors. When there is a version change, they would need to develop the new application on a separate PC and either convert to the newest version or continue to run it on the old version. Either way, if they try to combine both, they would need multiple PCs and not a single PC, which is what Omron and InduSoft provides the industry. We have the ability to make changes to the development application and then select to change the runtimes on the fly. As you can imagine, with detention facilities or any other automation platform, if you have to continually bring your system down or the workstations offline to make changes, and then bring them back up to incorporate the changes at each individual workstation, that is a significant amount of time and money. Also, global changes are something that InduSoft supports. So the ability to build all the characteristics of a single icon that is used over and over again, and to make global changes instead of having to develop icons individually with individual aspects to it, is again savings in time and money. The support for custom drivers is also available through the InduSoft package. Blinking icons, you wouldn't think, you might not think how important that is, but if you can imagine, you may have 50 icons on a page at one time, and something about the system asks the icon to blink. If you've got them all going on at the same time, it can cause many problems. Also, the ability for integrators to access Omron distribution channels for PLCs, software, power supplies, relays, is key to all of it. A quick point about another differentiator between Omron, InduSoft, and our competitor SCADA packages. The program developed as a certified system integrator in conjunction with InduSoft is also a key differentiator. Basically, the program offers training for 5 days by InduSoft application development engineers. The training itself is free of charge. The integrators will get themselves out to Austin during that time. That would be the only cost that they would incur for that training. A test is then authored by InduSoft and given to the attendees. Once they pass that test completely, then they have achieved the first level of certification. That allows them to receive up to 5 development packages in-house for development purposes. And also, they would then just have to purchase the runtimes for their customer base. There's no limit to how many people you can send to the training or how many people can take the CSIP exam. Even if you have one attendee, you can still obtain the 5 licenses. Also, once you pass the InduSoft test, there is an additional part of the program where a senior InduSoft, senior Omron engineer is sent on site to provide SysNet gateway training so that you can take advantage of all these different protocol features we talked about. Once they pass that test, then they are fully certified. And as long as they keep their CSIP program up to date, they then receive all InduSoft upgrades free of charge for the CSIP test. So, as a quick overview, the reason why the CS1 is such a significant change to the detention industry is because all of the CS1 features are off the shelf for Omron. These are not custom PLCs or custom applications. Previous to this, there were some integrators who had offerings where the PLC was a, let's say, door control specific. The owners and consultants gradually came to the point where that was not something that they preferred. They wanted to use industrial PLC to do this type of control. The is definitely a game changer for us. And now door control specs that had been asking for 10-year mean time between failure now feel very comfortable with the CS1 performance. Here. Okay. So, some of this information we've already covered, but a couple of key items. You may be aware that the CX1 programming software for Omron allows you to communicate to all of the Omron platforms that would be used for these type of applications. But it also supports all of the legacy networks that Omron has in place. So systems that are 15 years old can all still be communicated through our software. But because of that, they can also communicate to the Omron InduSoft package. Currently, there's about 80% of the integrators in that industry that use Omron PLCs. And initially, there were about 80% of those integrators also using Wonderware. That number has been drastically cut to the point now where over 50% of the system integrators in that same industry use the Omron InduSoft package. Our products are sold and supported locally through a national distribution network, and those distributors have a high level of technical support, and so that furthers Omron's reach into the industrial automation. The 1-800-55 Omron technical support line supports all of the Omron products, not just our PLCs. Specific to system integrators, when they call into that number and identify themselves as a detention integrator, they then can access our Tier 2 technical support line and speak to a detention specialist. We have added a senior detention specialist, Mr. Jay Hughes, who is very instrumental for our success of not only educating consultants and owners, but also helping us convert integrators who previously did not use our products and now have been using both our PLC platform and our software. The alliance between Omron and InduSoft began about 2004. It's also noteworthy that previous to this, Omron was looking at making a decision whether we were going to design something like our own SCADA system, or would we align ourselves with a companies like Wonderware, Simplicity, and Elution. The only company, after interviewing and sitting with each of these competitors, that could meet the criteria that Omron wanted to achieve is InduSoft. I can tell you from our personal experiences at the owner's level, at the integration level, and at the engineering level between Omron and InduSoft, they have the highest level of support. They are very well versed, not only in their own product, of course, but they're also very well versed in Wonderware, Simplicity, and Elution, the capabilities of those products, and why the InduSoft product is a differentiator between us and those competitors. They also support product training and application support on site through a startup kit, which is basically utilizing high-level InduSoft engineering people to help you develop your program. We have experienced this firsthand with an integrator who initially had won a project with a Rockwell Automation and Wonderware bid. When we were given the opportunity to speak to them about our platform and our solutions, we had people like Jay Hughes, people like Fabio Terrazino involved. To make a long story short, we want approval at the integration level, at the consultant level, and then we're asked to go to Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. to have the Omron InduSoft package approved as well. Previous to this, for the last 10 years, the Fed only allowed Wonderware on their projects, and now only Wonderware and the Omron InduSoft package have been approved. So again, the importance of our alliance, not only just in the detention industry, where Omron understood that if we were going to introduce this product into this vertical market, there's really two things would be at risk. It would be, one, to go head-to-head with Wonderware, who had the market share at that time. But we would also risk Omron's already very reliable view within regards to the consultants and the owners of our PLC platform. So as you can imagine, as the PLC leader, to introduce a SCADA package into this industry, if this package was not as reliable, as strong, as flexible as our PLC package, this would put our position at risk. But we also knew that because of the high level of support and engineering and knowledge from both Omron and InduSoft, and the amount of time that this was tested, that really this was the perfect place for us to introduce this package because of our market share. So again, only InduSoft could provide the R&D and global technical support that was required from a global manufacturer, such as Omron. One other point about a very key advantage, because Wonderware and other packages do not support FINS Gateway, and only the Omron InduSoft package does, when consultants are designing the system, they are now asking that the capabilities of data link are part of the performance of the system. FINS Gateway. You may be aware that previous to this, FINS Gateway was the name of our protocol. FINS Gateway is now what the protocols are called. So all of the FINS Gateway advantages are built into FINS Gateway, and FINS Gateway supports all of the Ethernet IP properties that we talked about. And so now you not only have forward and backward communication from the InduSoft product at the workstation, but you also have forward and backward communication through all of the PLC levels as well because of the CX1 software package. This is a list of some of the largest consulting and design firms in the U.S. They are not just detention consultants or architects, but these firms in various industries all support and list Omron products, including Omron InduSoft, as their solution. Also, the Federal Bureau of Prisons supports our products, as well as the state of Tennessee, that really lists Omron and Omron InduSoft only. Fabio, that's it from my end.
Thank you very much, Rich. I appreciate you sharing all this information with us. And now I'd like to open for questions. And if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat box or in the Q&A box. And Rich and myself will be glad to address them. So, Rich, it's more for you here. What kind of controllers would Omron recommend for building automation and for home automation? I think it's clear that the CS1 is the platform for detention. What about building automation and home automation?
You know, those typically those are not very high I/O. But even you can still climb to some significant points with the CJ series. So I would say that you know, between the CJ, CJ2, or even CP1H, you know, a much smaller PLC platform, because both of those platforms also support Ethernet communication. So you can still utilize all the advantages of InduSoft and still get all of the reliable control.
Great, thank you. One question here is about security when you use mobile devices, handheld devices like PDAs and tablets. the nice thing about the mobile solution is that it not necessarily replaces the standalone runtime station. So you could very well have a system where you have the controllers, you have a PC running the InduSoft Web Studio runtime, and you have mobile devices for specific features. And you can filter the information that's available to the remote devices, to the mobile devices. And you can also, since the remote devices are talking in many cases to the PC running the InduSoft Web Studio, we require authentication in order for someone to send a command from the PDA, from the mobile device, back to the server. So even though you have the ability from the technology point of view to send set points, to send commands back to the server, when you design the application, you have the ability to make the remote devices read-only, or even if you allow the user to change set points or to send commands, you can create a security system with users and passwords. So before changing the set point or sending the command, the security system of InduSoft will enforce that a user with enough privileges would be logged on the mobile device, and only after checking those credentials we would accept the commands, the set points sent from the mobile device. Moreover, from the infrastructure point of view, there are some guidelines that should be followed, like a strong encrypted key on the access point, on the wireless hub or wireless switch, to make sure that it's hard or not feasible for someone to connect to your wireless network and get access to the system. But in general, the security system from InduSoft Web Studio is flexible enough for you to customize the requirements for remote access and make it in a secure way, at least in a way as secure as the technology available today permits. And with that, we are approaching about 1 hour here. Once again, I would like to thank Rich for your time and for sharing your experience and your knowledge with us today here, Rich. And thank everybody and each one of you for the attendees for taking the time to watch this presentation today. And I hope to see you again in 2 weeks for the next InduSoft webinar. Thank you, everybody.